everyone, this is Professor Benjamin, and the objective of this video is to kind of give you a walkthrough of my expectations for Session 1 and Session 2, which is what we will cover this first week. Traditionally, I send up a roundup each week, so after the week is over, I'll send out a roundup that will kind of explain what happened that week, what were the good things, the bad things, and then what is to look forward to come. So because this class starts tomorrow, I figured I'd send out our first roundup today. So here we go. So Session 1, we will cover, this is the first week, so we will cover Session 1 and Session 2. I know it may seem like a significant amount of work, but we have to meet the scientific essential skills as well as the learning outcomes, so this course is transferable. A lot of courses that you may take here at CCP may meet certain requirements, and in order for the institution that you are transferring to accept those credits, you have to meet certain protocol. And if you do not do that, then technically your class does not count, and we may lose that transferability of that course to that institution. So it's absolutely essential that we cover a significant amount of work each week. What we traditionally would cover in a 15-week, we have to cover in 7 weeks. And I know there are some professors who are taking shortcuts out there, and that's fine, but I am on a lot of these committees, and I know what Middle States is looking for. So with that being said, we will cover 2 sessions per week. If you think that's too much work for you in the summer session, and I know I have 3 kids home with me who can't go to camps or attend anything because everything's closed, this may not be the best time for you to take this course. Maybe in a traditional 15-week session, this may be a better time for you to take this course. If you have not already, I highly suggest that you read the course information session. If you have questions about what my expectations are for initial posts and for response posts, they're right here. We do not attach forum posts. So forum posts are put in the reply area. And if you don't know how to do that, this right here is a screenshot of where to submit your reply. So a reply is where you would put your initial post, and then underneath that initial post to someone else, another individual's in the class's initial post, you would hit reply, and that would be where you make your response post to that individual. So since we cover 2 sessions per week, you will have this week, you will have an initial post due for the introduction and an initial post due for Tragedy of the Commons. You will pick one of the 6 questions under here and answer it. It needs to be at least 300 words, contain sources I've given you, no outside sources are allowed. You will answer the question, and then by Friday you will respond to someone else's in the class's initial post. You can respond to any of the forum posts. It doesn't have to be limited to the question you answer, but you will respond to a classmate. So right here you'll pick one of the 6 questions, and right here you'll pick one of the 6 questions and answer those with the materials within the session. So the introduction session, we cover the introduction chapter of the OER textbook, the Open Resource Textbook. Along with it has a PowerPoint. If you open this PowerPoint in PowerPoint, you will actually have notes at the bottom of each slide that will give you more details, especially on bullet points. There are also videos included and other materials for the PowerPoints. Here is a video on feedback loops, because you're going to need to know what a positive and a negative feedback loop is and how that brings homeostasis to the environment. A positive feedback loop in terms of this class is actually something that continues the harm that's happening. So traditionally we think of something positive as good. In this case, it's actually, it perpetuates the situation. So in your PowerPoint, it talks about deforestation. So you cut down a tree, and that tree actually is holding the soil in place. So when you cut down the tree, the roots die. And then that allows the erosion of soil to happen, which then kills trees below it. And sometimes that soil ends up in river systems, and then it ends up in the oceans. And it kills things in the river systems, and it creates siltation in the ocean systems, which kills, it's one of the factors that kills coral reefs. So it perpetuates the problem. Negative feedback loops, on the other hand, try and reverse the change. So they try and bring back normalcy to the environment. And in the PowerPoint, they give the example of algae. So algae growth happens. It sucks. It uses all the nutrients in the in the river or in the lake system, it blooms, and then what happens is there's not enough nutrients left, so it dies back again. And see how that negative reversal happens. And then it tries to bring homeostasis back to that river or lake system again. We will talk about the scientific method, and I will have more videos on how to complete assignment 1 under here. So you will have further information on the scientific method. The scientific method is essential in this course because this course, you'll see that theme covered throughout. What is scientific inquiry? What is scientific critical thinking? We will use scientific primary texts. So you'll see that idea of the scientific essential skill run throughout this course. And then you actually see a video on ecosystem services. So what does an ecosystem bring to us? There are different types of services that ecosystems give. There are provisioning, there's cultural services. So there's 4 different types of services that ecosystems provide to us. And this video reading will help you. There's also a video on ecological succession. You want to know what primary and secondary ecological succession are. These are really important terms. So what happens, when does primary succession occur and when does secondary succession occur? And this video is super helpful. It will give you all the information that you need. And then remember, here's your forum post. So you're going to pick one of the 6 questions and answer it. A lot of these questions can be answered using this PowerPoint here. So you'll want to use that and from the first chapter in your open resource textbook. Then you will have your assignment due. This is a series of 4 worksheets that you will do. And remember, I'll have walkthrough videos that help you do that. And then you have a quiz due for this first session. The second session will deal with tragedy of the commons, and this is really important. So you want to read the descriptions, and then you want to read this PowerPoint. The third thing you have to do is read Tragedy of the Commons by Garrett Hardin. It is a significant amount of reading, but don't forget, in this course, typically we would meet 4 days a week in the classroom. And we would meet for 1 hour and 20 minutes. So that's a significant amount of time in the classroom. So that's what you need to put in at home in an online course setting. So you're talking about 4 to 5 hours, what we would meet in the classroom. And then on top of it is what would be outside the classroom. So you are going to have a significant amount of work. You can do it within that time frame. I have students succeed every semester, so you can do it. Tragedy of Commons by Garrett Hardin is a theme that runs through this entire course. And what it is Garrett Hardin talks about the idea that we try to solve all of these problems with shared commons, which are shared spaces. So the air, we all breathe it. People in China are breathing the same air that we're breathing. It's in one circular fashion. Same with the oceans. So what we do here can affect what happens in another country. And then also with land. So what we do here with our land affects our neighbors, or it affects what happens maybe somewhere else, because maybe we are cutting down trees in one area. Well, then it affects the whole ecosystem. So there's a lot involved with that. And what Garrett Hardin says, instead of actually getting to the root of the problem and teaching people about environmental conservation, we put in place all these technical solutions. So instead of teaching people why we're using so much single-source plastic that is ending up in our ocean ecosystems, instead we create we try and create different types of boats that will collect garbage, right? So we're trying to patch the problem with technical solutions rather than getting to the root of the problem with changing the moral compass of individuals. So we've put all these technical solutions in place, and he talks about mutual corrosion, which he actually says works. So you'll want to find out why it works. And one of the main reasons why he says mutual corrosion works is the fact that fines are being implemented on us, but we still feel like we have freedoms. The minute we feel like our freedoms are being taken away, we kind of fight back on that, right? And so in terms of the environment, we can't go into everyone's home and say, you need to recycle and you need to do this. But if we offer incentives or we fine individuals, we find that they follow the law more because they still feel like they can do it on, you don't always have to recycle, right? But if you do it most of the time, so people feel like, oh, I don't feel like someone's big brother's watching me all the time. So that's one. The welfare state he talks about, I am a proponent of the welfare state, but he talks about how it doesn't help the commons problem in terms of population. He also talks about government oversight and how many issues there can be with government oversight, which is the fact that a lot of us, we can't take care of the commons. So we then say the government should do it. So we have the National Park Service, and we have the EPA, the Environmental Protection Agency. They all take care of the environment for us because we just don't want to do it. But that's also a technical solution. Is government intervention is a technical solution. So he lays out all these different forms of technical solutions. Privatization is another one. And he talks about all these different technical issues and why there's problems with them. But he always comes back in the end to the fact that we need moral compass. We need a change in the way we view the environment. So this is really important document. You need to read it because you're going to be asked questions on the midterm. You're going to see in the next assignment that you have to bring it in. You'll see in the Dust Bowl assignment, you'll see it as well. You'll talk about those short-term gains. We always look for a short-term gain, meaning what can I get out of the ecosystem rather than thinking about the long-term interest. So what am I doing now that's going to affect the ecosystems in the future? So I may litter, right? Because I'm like, I don't feel like carrying this garbage with me. But what we don't realize is that when we litter, we bring down the housing values in that area. We, all of that litter a lot of times washes into our stormwater system, and then it ends up in our river systems, which then ends up in our ocean ecosystems. So we don't realize what we're doing. It's the short-term gain, which is I don't want to carry this garbage around, versus the long-term interest of society. So that is definitely there. We talk about a current day one. It's not current anymore, but the Gulf oil spill was definitely one. The Exxon Valdez, the Gulf oil spill, these are all issues. The Gulf oil disaster talks about privatization, is that we've privatized our oceans. We've leased out our oceans to big oil companies. And this is a big issue because what do big oil companies, their first short-term gain is what? It's greed. It's money. It's economic gain. And they don't think about the long-term interests of society. We are still seeing ramifications from the Gulf oil spill today. Also, we talk about invasive species. So your next week, in the future, we have some questions about invasive species and why it's a tragedy of the commons, is that we bring in species for our own short-term gain rather than thinking about the long-term interests of society. Oh, that plant is so pretty, I'm going to bring it in. But what we don't realize is that it can overtake an ecosystem. So that's definitely something with that. So then you'll have an initial post due by Wednesday and a response post due by Friday to a fellow classmate here. Remember, we don't attach them. We type them in the reply area. You can open Word and type it in there and then copy and paste it in the reply area. But you do not want to attach a document because everyone needs to read it and everyone can't open your document. So it's important that you type in the reply area or you copy and paste into the reply area your post. Remember, paragraphs, initial posts need to be at least 300 words. They're due by by Wednesday. Response posts are always due by Friday. Assignments and quizzes are due by Sunday. Okay, and you'll notice here, you have a quiz here. Usually when I give you an assignment, I don't give a quiz, but this week I did because it's really important that you know some of this information for the learning outcomes for the course. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out, and I hope this introduction gave you a little overview of the course and its expectations. And within the next day, I'll have up walkthroughs for the scientific method assignment.